Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello everyone and welcome to the latest in our 2020 series of ChemCareers webinars, and this one is about careers at the interface of chemistry with other disciplines. I do apologise for the slightly late start here. I'm afraid we had some technical difficulties because of the COVID situation. We're all working from home and everything is seeming to take a little bit longer than it would normally, but I hope you're all comfortable and listening now, and that you will enjoy the webinar despite the slightly late start. Okay, so just to introduce myself, my name's Julie Franklin and I'm one of the Career and Professional Development Advisors at the Royal Society of Chemistry. And I'm delighted to say that I have a guest today, Jordan Marinaccio, who is a member of the Royal Society of Chemistry too, and works very much at the interface between chemistry and engineering. And we'll talk to Jordan very soon. Just to let you know what we're going to be talking about today, we're going to give you an overview of some of the interface sectors and the roles available, understanding the key characteristics of an interface role, a little bit about understanding the variety of roles which are available and career progression routes within those roles, understanding what the sector looks for. So if you're thinking of this seriously as a career for you, what you need to think about in terms of skills and how you're going to promote yourself into that market, if you like. Understanding a little bit about the rewards and challenges of interface roles. And then we're going to finish up by just letting you know that if you are an RSC member, there is lots of support and professional development advice available for you through the RSC, and we will take you through some of that. So just to show you what we mean by interface role. As you can imagine, chemistry, we say to students in our student talks, chemistry is all around us. It's in every aspect of what we do. And so, of course, there are careers in all aspects of these things too. Science is everywhere, chemistry is everywhere. So there are interface roles with other science disciplines in the fields of, just for example, materials, food and drink, fast-moving consumer goods, textiles, packaging, construction, agriculture, horticulture, and those are just to name a few. I think the whole message of our webinar today really is, if you're looking for a career in chemistry, look beyond the obvious. It's not just pharmaceuticals, it's not just academic research. There are lots and lots of other things that you can do, and a lot of choices that you can make depending on what you really enjoy and what you're really good at. So we can't cover all of those options today, but by highlighting some of the interesting and challenging and rewarding roles and industries that maybe wouldn't first spring to mind, we hope we're going to open up some new horizons for you and give you some fresh inspiration. So again, I'd like to introduce our guest today. That's Jordan, who is a member of the RSC and working as a materials and tooling systems engineer for the Sumitomo Electric Wiring Systems Europe. So would you like to say hello, Jordan, and tell us a bit about your current role?
Yes, thank you very much, Julie. Good morning, everybody. As Julie mentioned, my name is Jordan Marinaccio. The role that I'll be discussing today is actually not my current role, as I've just had a change of role within the same company, but it's the most applicable to this interface careers. And as a materials engineer within Sumitomo, I was responsible for polymeric materials and polymer coverings, as well as cable insulation materials, cable conductor materials, and also it stretched as far as lubricants and other materials which are used during the assembly of our product. And for people who don't understand or don't necessarily know who Sumitomo Electric Wiring Systems are, they're one of the leading manufacturers of wire harnesses, electrical distribution systems within automotive industry, which is actually, the SUSE itself is part of a larger electrical SUSE Sumitomo Electrical Group. And as you can see from the slide here, they have a very vast experience in a lot of different areas, from superconductors to renewable energy, semiconductors, and a lot of energy storage within their business. And so a company such as Sumitomo, which not many people would have heard of, I'd imagine, who are on this webinar call. They are a very vast company, and it's don't necessarily look for the companies which hit the headlines all the time. As I said, this is an example of electrical wiring harness, and as you can see, there's lots of different materials, different parts, which all have a chemical makeup, and they interact in different ways with the environment. And part of the role was actually to identify the different materials and how they react with different local and global environments within the vehicle. As you can imagine, there's temperature sensors, there's other connectors which are exposed to very high heats if they're around the exhaust manifold, or if they're in the engine bay. And it's not just high heat, it's repetitive high heat, low heat, high heat, low heat. And you've got to be able to understand how the polymer and how the chemistry of the polymer actually contributes to the behavior of the material in those environments. And again, there's an overview there, sort of overview of how vast the company Sumitomo and other multinationals are. Really global companies, and you shouldn't really shouldn't feel like you should be held down to, like Julie said, pharmaceutical companies or fine chemicals, companies like BASF or things like that. Chemistry is all around us. And again, an example of the size of Sumitomo Suzy, with multiple manufacturing sites. And these kind of interface roles or involvements with engineering mean that you get to travel extensively. Obviously not in the current climate, but you get to sample a lot of different cultures with these types of roles, especially within the automotive industry, because it really is a global business with global supply chain. And part of the role involves going and visiting suppliers, going and visiting customers, and their manufacturing sites as well.
That sounds absolutely fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's an interface in terms of an interface with chemistry and engineering, but then the role I had is an interface with our company in terms of the R&D sector, our company in terms of the manufacturing sites, our company in terms of sales functions as well, and then the wider sort of supply chain from material suppliers to then our part suppliers, and providing a bridge or a connection there and technical expertise in that respect. And then also if you want to propose a change to our customers, then I provide that technical knowledge to the customer, interface between us and the customer as well. So it's very, very interesting role, and a lot of travel involved.
Yes, and a lot of high-level skills there. So I think that's a perfect example of looking beyond the obvious. As you say, a lot of people would not have heard of your company's name, and certainly wouldn't associate them with a career for a chemist. So that's a really fascinating overview. Yeah,
and I think one of the take homes from that kind of my kind of role, and one of the things that I feel quite strongly about, is that you've got to have very good interpersonal skills, and you've got to be able to tailor your communication very well to a vast variety of different stakeholders and different parties. You're going to be talking with people who are purchasing, who are a customer's purchasing department, and they won't necessarily have any technical knowledge on polymers or the in-depth technical knowledge on the product that you're trying to sell them. So you've got to be able to put across the good points and the bad points, and sometimes you've got to change the bad points into some sort of positive, but you've got to be able to, like I said, tailor the communication to the audience very well.
Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine that's quite a job in itself, really, being able to talk technical with technical people, but then translate that into language that somebody who wants to buy your product, who isn't a chemist, would really need to understand. So I think we're already starting to tease out some of these really high level skills that you're using, and that would be required for a job in the kind of sector that you have. I mean,
Mhm.
you've mentioned that it's an interface with chemistry and engineering, and it's a sort of the automotive sector. So, can you tell us a little bit about the other people that you work with and the kind of backgrounds that they have?
Yeah, so the vast majority of people that I work with are engineers. A lot of them are time-served electrical engineers who started off as apprentices within the business, and then they've moved up over time then into the manufacturing environment. There's also chemists that I work with as well, because we have a testing lab which we have to do the testing and validation of a product. The testing can be mechanical testing, or it can also be chemical fluids testings, accelerated aging testing, things like that. Because if you imagine that we've got to be able to guarantee a product for 100,000 miles, you won't be able to drive a test vehicle for 100,000 miles before they launch the vehicle. Otherwise, it'll be time to launch the next model vehicle. So, I mean, that's a very large part of what we do actually is this accelerated testing and validation, trying to understand how the materials behave over a very compressed period of time, and then extrapolating that outwards to X amount of hours under constant use. And again, that's taking chemistry and using it in a wider context then for the engineering applications.
Yeah, I understand. So, working with a lot of engineers, you've already mentioned working with customers, working with other
Yeah.
chemists. It's a very varied role,
Mm.
and it sounds very exciting and interesting. So, um, we've said that these kind of these kind of careers can be difficult to find. So, can you tell us a little bit about how you got into this type of role, and what it was that attracted you about this kind of interface career?
I mean, I've always been interested in the automotive industry, and if I mean, I'll talk relatively quickly about my background. I did my master's degree in chemistry in Cardiff University, and my final year project focused on automotive exhaust catalysis with JLR. I did a short placement at the university during my last summer, where I looked at colloidal gold as a cleaning solution, a cleaning medium. I then did an engineering doctorate at Swansea University, where my focus was on grid scale battery storage applications and manufacturing processes around a specific technology. And I think that's where I started to get an appreciation more for manufacturing side of engineering or manufacturing, the role of chemistry in manufacturing. And then this role sort of came about through knocking on doors, really. I didn't want to leave my local area in South Wales, so I sort of just went driving around, went searching internet searches to try and find local engineering firms and local chemistry firms, things like that, careers that I thought I'd be able to shoehorn my way into almost. Knocked on a door, metaphorically sending an email, asked to come around for a look, and things sort of materialized from there. They realized that they had a real shortage in their knowledge of, or a skills gap in their materials department as such, and they thought that I could offer them something, and I did. So
That's a great story of being proactive. I mean, the fact that you did a placement while you were at university, I mean, I'm sure that helped in many ways. It certainly does give you workplace skills, and it always looks good on a CV if you want to go into an industrial job, if you've had some kind of work placement. But the whole idea of going around and knocking on doors, I mean, that's very proactive, and it just shows us all really that those kind of speculative approaches can pay off if you've really thought them out in advance and you've thought about what you've got to offer. Would you say that was a fair assessment? I mean, you might knock on a lot of doors metaphorically and not get an answer, but if one turns out to be just the right job for you, it kind of got you into your dream job, didn't it, Jordan?
yeah, of course. I mean, you've got to consider that whatever job comes up on a job board, there's going to be X amount of applicants.
Yeah.
Maybe you'll have hundreds. But if you go and knock on a door, you've got to compete with a hell of a lot less door knockers
Mm-hmm.
than applicants. And a lot of companies, I mean, I'll talk for Sumitomo in specifically, they don't have a graduate scheme as such. The only way that they intake is by putting out job applications, and they'll do that internally before they go externally. And then they have an apprentice scheme. They try to take on a few apprentices per year. Fresh out of school, fresh out of college, and they tend to do mechanical bias and electrical bias,
Mm-hmm.
and they always have done. So this is a company which has that skills gap.
Mm-hmm.
And there's bound to be many companies like Sumitomo out there who won't necessarily think that, oh, we need a chemist, because we need the transferable skills that a chemist has got, the
Mm-hmm.
analytical skills that a chemist has got.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
you obviously did a great job of persuading them that they needed a chemist. So, I mean, yes, we sometimes we need a bit of luck in our lives, I know, but I think the more proactive you are and the more of a proactive approach you take to your job searching, the more likely you are to find opportunities, or, even in Jordan's case, to make an opportunity for yourself. I think there's a real lesson there in how taking that kind of approach, not waiting for people to come knocking on your door, but you go out and knock on theirs, can really pay off. So that's very interesting, Jordan, and a great story. You've already mentioned that the role that you're describing at the moment was your previous role, and I understand that recently you've changed your role, that your career has progressed and you've got another role. So certainly congratulations on that. So could you tell us a bit about that role and how you made that change, and really what the progression opportunities are like within your company?
I mean, the progression opportunities are quite good, actually. As I mentioned, it's such a large company, and what you'll find with a lot of companies, a lot of larger companies, is that the opportunities for promotion within are quite vast. I have a lot of friends who work at GKN and others such as Tata Steel, and what you do find is that there's the larger companies, these opportunities will always come up. There's always a rotation of people around, people moving on, people moving upwards. So the progression opportunities do present themselves, and this one did present for myself. I mean, my bias has really been focused on environmental chemistry, really. If I think about it down to automotive exhaust catalysis, like I said, the project on colloidal gold, and my doctorate as well. At Swansea University and their materials academy. So I mean, the position became available, and I kind of just went for it. And the feedback that I had is that the presentation skills I had was very good. Again, I had a telephone interview with a presentation, and I was in front of the company engineering manager and the company health and safety manager, and they are they're people who don't necessarily have the understanding of environmental aspects of manufacturing. And since the role was for the environmental manager, this gave me a really good opportunity to show my knowledge and understanding, and put that across to them. And again, it's tailoring that communication to those people, and so you get the best impact and the best bang for your buck in that half an hour, the opportunity that you get.
Yes, absolutely. Well, congratulations on that. Have you settled in? How long have you been in your new role?
I'm actually furloughed at the moment with the current situation.
Oh, gosh, right, okay.
But I will be commencing my role in the next 2 weeks.
Yes, yeah. I think it's important to tell people as well. I mean, obviously, we're all living through this very difficult situation with COVID-19 at the moment, but we are seeing evidence that recruitment is still going on. There are still jobs out there. And again, I think, as Jordan was saying earlier, the more proactive you are, don't be afraid to approach companies now. Everybody's got a lot on their plates, we know, but recruitment is still going on. There are still jobs out there. And maybe if today is inspiring you to think, right, I'm going to look for different kinds of companies now and see what openings there might be for chemists there. I think now might be a good time, if you've got a bit of time on your hands, to really do some research into some of these companies that aren't the obvious ones, and as Jordan says, maybe go knocking on a few doors. So it's good to hear that you'll be back in the swing of things before too long, Jordan, and obviously the very best of luck, and hope you really enjoy the new role as much as you did the last one. So
Yeah, yes.
yeah, if we go back to your previous role, the one that you've just moved on from, well,
Hmm.
even the job that even the role that you have now, if you've had it for long enough before the furlough happened, just explain to us what you enjoy most about your day-to-day work. What really inspires you and makes you want to get up in the morning and go and do your job?
I mean, I really enjoyed my role as materials engineer, and I would have continued on doing that role if I didn't want to progress within the company and move on to bigger things, not necessarily better things, but the thing that I enjoy the most is that you get to see. I mean, I worked on projects where I was progressing materials, trialing materials with our suppliers, going to our suppliers and doing line trials there, going to the material suppliers actually and visiting their plants, their polymer manufacturing plants, having tours around there, trying to understand the polymer chemistry, and the products that they sold and the benefits of their products, and then really following it through then, like I said, through material trial builds, testing and validation of those new parts, doing a back-to-back with the current material to try and understand, is it better, is it worse, and also then there was an overlap with computer aided engineering analysis, where we'd run finite element analysis on the materials in the part form, to understand if there was any potential for failure in that respect, and then taking it through to the actual vehicle. So I've had large input on the electrical distribution system of a now current mass production vehicle, and I think it's having that knowledge and knowing that you've taken something through from its very beginnings, from its conception as an idea through to a finished product, is something that I found very exciting and very a great sense of pride I have over that.
And quite rightly so. I know we ran one of these webinars a while ago on careers in fast-moving consumer goods, which is another kind of crossover sector, really. And I remember our speaker then, our guest, saying something very similar. She'd actually been on holiday to America and had actually gone into a shop there and seen one of the products that she'd developed for sale in a supermarket, even in America. And she felt this enormous sense of pride, that she had done exactly what you'd done, seen that through right from the very beginning to a finished product that was now on sale all over the world. So I guess that's the same kind of thing for you. It's that satisfaction of knowing you're making something that people are going to want to use, want to buy, which will improve their lives, whatever it might be.
That's right. Yeah, and I think that's one of the benefits of engineering. There's so many sectors that you can work within, and you'll never get that moment, just in amongst your day where you'll get that gentle reminder of, I contributed towards that.
Yes.
And it's not very often that you do find a career like that, but more so in engineering, I feel that you will have those moments.
For sure, yes, and to see something for sale, people buying a product that you've, certainly helped to develop or been instrumental in
Yeah.
developing must be very satisfying. I do understand that. So it sounds as though there's a lot of intellectual challenge there and a lot of personal challenge, a lot of which is positive, But could you, just to be totally realistic and honest here, could you highlight other challenges of the role that are maybe a bit less motivating? Are there any particular challenges that are specific to interface roles, do you think?
I mean, I think I mentioned the communication aspect of things. You really do at times have to. I don't want to say dumb down, but it's a case of not getting bogged down in the details with certain people, and then knowing when you really do have to up the detail and really be granular about it. And at the end of the day, if in you're talking about, fast-moving consumer goods, or you're talking about an automotive industry or aviation, the fine details are very important, but there's a time and a place for those fine details as well. I think the other thing that I think is the biggest challenge is you might not necessarily go into. So the way I went into the business is I wasn't a polymer chemist.
Yeah.
But I was a materials scientist, I was a chemist, I was a materials engineer, and I had to learn it. But you can't. That's learning it on your time as well as on the company time. So I think that sometimes you might go for an interface career which might not be necessarily the perfect fit, but then you've got to work pretty hard to make yourself the perfect fit once you're there.
Yeah, there's a strong message there as well, isn't there? That, as most of us know, jobs just don't land on your plate. Even people I speak to in my role as a careers and professional development advisor, sometimes they'll say to me things like, oh, well, the job just landed in my lap. And I never think that's true. I mean, unless you've actually demonstrated that you've got the qualities and you've got that kind of attitude that you're talking about there, Jordan, I don't think jobs do land in your lap. I think a lot of what you put into your career determines what you get out of it, really. And if you are prepared to be adaptable and flexible and learn on the job and be proactive, all the things you're talking about, Jordan, people who take that kind of approach to their careers do tend to fare better, I would say. So I think you're a great example of how that can really work for you. So the challenges are they're going to be there in every career, but I guess if you love what you do, and underneath all of this, seeing those cars out there on the road and people driving them, gives you that huge amount of satisfaction, then that's your driving force to do what you need to do to be successful in your job, really, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and I just want to echo what you said about the adaptability. It really is a very important part of these interface careers, because you're not going to be spending your time in a lab. If you were to do a chemistry focused job, your time would be spent in a lab, formulating, testing, and researching formulations and testing and things like that. In an interface career, it's an interface career in terms of, like I said, in terms of interface with chemistry and engineering, but then it's an interface career within the company that you're in, and you have to be able to interact with a lot of different people, and you've got to have that type of adaptability to be able to get by.
Yeah, and more than get by in your case. You've done very well, and I think, as I say, I think you're a perfect example of, if you grab an opportunity with both hands, and be prepared to be adaptable and learn on the job and change. I think you're right, particularly in interface careers. If they are an interface, they're an interface between something you know very well and something that maybe you don't know quite so well. So you've got to be prepared to put the time in, I guess, to get up to speed on all aspects of the job. Yeah, I understand that.
And at times as well, you've got to not be afraid to do things off your own back. I mean, when I went knocking on the door in the first place of a materials engineering job, or some sort of job within Sumitomo, I went and chatted. We spoke about opportunities, and then I went away and I actually book myself onto a short course myself about polymer science. And then I did similar then with this environmental manager job that I applied for. Once I applied for the role, I then took on a short course myself off my own back. You know, because there's so much information out there, and even with you know, a course that may cost 5, 10, 15, 20 pounds, you shouldn't underestimate how much that shows to a potential employer. Your willingness to learn, your willingness to succeed, and actually that you're invested in this opportunity already.
Yeah, that's a very good point, isn't it? I mean, that's employers nowadays are really looking for people who are very committed to their own professional development as well as the development of the company. And you're quite right. If you can show that you've proactively gone and done a course because you think that will mean you've got more to offer that particular sector or company, then that says a lot about you, and you don't have to say any more in a sense. You know, your actions have spoken louder than your words.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not talking about going and spending hundreds of pounds on like a lean manufacturing course or something like that. You know, there's no need to do that, because a lot of the time, you know, companies will provide that as and when you get to it. But like I said, these, you know, small short courses, you know, just something that really adds to your CV, and you know, gives you that knowledge actually about when you go into that interview situation, or when you have those discussions, you know what to say.
Yes, exactly. And I think things like that are a great answer to awkward interview questions, you know, like, tell us about your weaknesses. You know, if you could turn around and say, well, I realized that I didn't know enough about polymers, so I went and did a short course, you know, that's a great answer to a question like that with a positive outcome. And it shows your self-awareness and willingness to do something about gaps.
I mean, that's one of the biggest pitfalls really in interviews, when the weakness question comes up.
Oh yes.
Is I know what my weakness is, but I haven't done anything about it.
Exactly, yeah. And if you can point to something that you recognized in yourself and then did go and do something about, that's the kind of answer that they're looking for. So that's great. I mean, we've already talked about the sorts of skills that you use on a daily basis, but there are a variety of roles within your company. So if people have been inspired today and are thinking, yes, I'm going to start looking beyond the obvious, could you give us an idea of the sorts of key skills that a company like yours would look for? And can you identify, you've already identified that they needed a chemist and now they have one, but could you look at, you know, skill shortages that, you know, maybe your company finds it difficult to recruit into certain roles, just to give people listening an idea of how to promote themselves, how to promote the skills that they've got effectively?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the usual suspects sort of come up. It's the self-starter, it's the being able to have independence, drive and determination, problem solving as well, because you know, a lot of the time we'll get issues coming from a manufacturing site where they'll say, we keep getting X amount of lead breakages during the manufacturing process, or we've got a customer, actually a big part of the business is customer warranty complaints. So if something goes wrong in the vehicle during service, then you have to, so the warranty complaint will come to our site in South Wales, and we'll have to do a forensic investigation basically on the defective part, and then that becomes a problem solving exercise, which is also going to be done sort of time sensitive as well, because you've got customers which are you know, very keen to have their warranty claims resolved.
I'm sure.
So I think problem solving is a really big one within our company.
Okay, I think that's an important point, isn't it? Because obviously you need the technical skills to be even considered for the role, but your technical skills, particularly in interface roles and roles like yours, are certainly not the end of the story. You could be brilliant technically, but if you haven't got that adaptability that you described, Jordan, if you haven't got those communication skills, you're not going to make a success of a role like this. And I think if those of you are listening who are interested in this kind of job, do take this on board. It's your transferable skills as well as your technical skills that are more likely to lead to success for you.
Yeah, I mean the soft skills are incredibly important, and in that respect, I'm quite lucky in that the engineering doctorate that I did had a variety of interpersonal and soft skill modules. So
Okay.
I did HR relations modules. I did
Right.
finance for non-financial managers. There were
Mhm.
leadership modules, innovative thinking modules, process optimization,
Mhm.
and investment appraisals. And again, those types of things, being able to spot an opportunity through an innovative thinking approach, and then being able to appraise that idea and look at it in terms of an investment, because a lot of times within the engineering sector, if you see an opportunity, then you'll have to be able to understand, is it going to cost the business money? Is it going to save the business? Is it going to make the business money?
Mhm.
So having those types of skills is again another big plus to an interface career.
Yes, yeah, I can see that. So we're looking at a mixture of technical and transferable skills here, which, will need to be
Yeah.
promoted in your application, in your CV, in your covering letter, if you go for a job like this. I think that's a very good point. So I'm
Yeah.
mindful of the time now. I'm going to ask Jordan one last question now. And while Jordan answers, please feel free, if you're logged into the webinar, you will be able to type in questions for either me or for Jordan. So while Jordan answers this final question, do feel free to type in any questions that you may have, and I'll put them to Jordan a little bit later on when he's finished answering this question. So please feel free to do that. So last question then, Jordan. If you had one piece of advice to offer anyone there listening who's been inspired today and is wondering how to get into an interface role, what would it be?
Oh, what one piece other than the pieces that we've already discussed?
One piece, yes.
Um, I think don't necessarily think about a career.
Okay.
Don't necessarily think that you want to get into. I mean, if you're just coming out of your bachelor's or your master's, really do consider a further education step, an engineering doctorate or a PhD or something like that, because doing an engineering doctorate or a PhD really is an excellent opportunity to build contacts within your network. Similarly, doing a placement or a summer internship or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of the times, things will be available. You have to ask; they won't necessarily be publicized. And if you're the right person, and you show an enthusiasm to a lecturer or supervisor, then they may want you to stay on over a summer, because they may want to give you this opportunity. They may want to test you to see if you are ready for the next step in terms of perhaps a master's degree or a PhD, or an engineering doctorate, or maybe even a master's by research project. Don't necessarily think that your 3 years is up and now you need to 3 or 4 years is up and now you need to look for a job opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Valuable piece of advice there. Yes, we've had some questions coming in, so I'm going to ask Jordan now. Someone is saying, hi Jordan, how much training did you receive when you started with Sumitomo? Did you learn or develop the majority of skills relevant to your work on the job, or did you have prior experience from academia?
So like I briefly mentioned, my prior experience in terms of automotive manufacturing was zero. My prior experience in terms of polymer chemistry was zero. My prior experience in terms of injection molding tooling, which is the tooling part of my role, was zero. But I had the materials science background and a very varied materials engineering, materials science background. So going into it, I had very little prior experience of the role directly. I was given some on-the-job training, but this was really about six to 9 months after I'd actually joined the company. A lot of the learning was on the job. I visited our manufacturing sites to learn about the processes as well, because it's all well and good in focusing on the product, but if you don't know how the product fits into the jigsaw, then it's very difficult to get an appreciation for the materials aspect of it. So in short, there was some on the job training, but most of it was done on the job in my own time and through some training courses.
Okay, thank you very much. And someone is asking, did you hear of many challenges related to chemistry PhDs pursuing an engineering, i.e. not a scientist role? So I think we're talking about this crossover of qualifications here, really, from chemistry to engineering.
Yeah, I mean, it is difficult because a chemistry PhD quite often can be quite specific. And it's, you've got to just be aware then, if you're doing this chemistry PhD, for example, if you were looking at perovskite solar cells, or if you were looking, I don't know, thermoelectric generating devices.
Mm-hmm.
The crossover, you know, you've got to be able to extract the skills that you've developed over the 3 to 4 years of the PhD, and then sell them on to the potential employer if you're not going into the same area.
Mm-hmm.
You know, PhDs, like I said, they can be quite focused, but then it's about the way that you put that across to the potential employer. And that's it, you know, this was focused, but I learned this, and this, or I am able to do this, and this. These are the skills that I've developed. I do understand it can be difficult to go on from a chemistry PhD to an engineering role, but again, it's the way that you package it.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, we always say to people in our role of careers advisors, your PhD is more than just what you actually studied. You will have picked up so many skills along the way. We were talking about transferable skills, placements, that kind of thing. Those are the things that you would need to really emphasize, rather than the science, possibly. It's an odd concept, but again, if anybody out there is struggling with that, I'm going to tell you how to get in touch with the RSC's careers team, of which I am one, and we can always help you with kind of repurposing your skills, if you like, because I always say to people, it doesn't matter where you got your skills from. If you have a skill, it belongs to you. So if you developed great time management skills while you were doing your PhD, then that's something else that you got in addition to getting your PhD, if you see what I mean. So that time that you spent, those 3 years, it's more than about just your science, and it's how you put that across. If you've got questions about that, then I'm going to tell you, how to contact the careers team at the RSC if you're a member, and you're very welcome to send us any queries like that, and we're very happy to help. There's a question here it's more about interview skills, I think. It's how to cope with, if you're I presume this means a non-native English speaker, when attending for a job interview after graduation. I guess that may be slightly more for me than for you, Jordan. I think, the key to any interview is to prepare really well. Make sure that you've read through job description, make sure you've read through the job advert if you used one, or whatever information that you've got about the job very, very carefully before your interview. Make sure you read through your CV and your application very carefully, and try to think about the questions that they might ask you. They will ask you questions about things that you're confident on, otherwise they wouldn't be interviewing you at all if they didn't think you had the right mix of skills. But also try to anticipate some of the questions that might probe areas where you're not so strong. So let's say they want experience of project management and you haven't got that much, they're going to probe you about that. So try to bring in examples from all aspects of your life. If you haven't had huge amount of project experience at work, but you manage a local sports team or a choir or photography club or something like that. Like I said, all those skills belong to you, and they are good answers for interview questions. So it doesn't matter whether you're a native English speaker or not a native English speaker, preparation and anticipation of what they might ask you is really, really key. Again, if you're an RSC member and you want more information about that, you can email us. And there's also quite a lot of information, general information, that's widely available to anyone, member or not, that's on our website. And I will give you the web link to that in a minute or two. So, okay, that seems to be all the end of the questions now. So thank you very much for sending those in. They're very, and I hope you've been inspired by what you've heard today. I think Jordan's certainly given us a very good overview of things that you need to be thinking about, and the rewards of that type of role, which are many and varied, obviously. So, as promised, just to go through, if you're an RSC member, there is quite a lot of support for you for professional development and career development that you can get as a part of your membership. Another thing that we haven't mentioned, but we should, are the RSC is a worldwide community of something like 52,000 people. And within that, we have lots of member-led networks and communities. So getting yourself out there, being proactive, as Jordan said, joining something like the materials chemistry group if you're interested in this sort of thing. Whatever you're interested in, there will be an interest group for it. We have 9 divisions and over 70 interest groups, and depending on the category of membership that you're in, you can join a certain number of those. And they're a great way to meet people that you wouldn't normally get the chance to meet, find out what they do, find out how they got into the role that they got into. There's all sorts of stuff there, and our networks are very friendly and very welcoming of new members. If listening today has inspired you to think about your own professional development and log your skills and identify your skills gaps as Jordan clearly did and then filled them. We do have information and resources for you to use to manage your professional development. That's the next link there. If you're interested in becoming a chartered chemist or a registered scientist, there's information about those sort of professional designations on the next link down. And Jordan mentioned taking training courses off your own bat. I think it's a great idea. We have got a database of approved training courses. So if you are going to spend a little bit of your own money on a training course, you want to know it meets a certain standard. All the training courses on that database have been inspected by somebody from the Royal Society of Chemistry. So we know that they meet the required standard, and also some of the providers will actually offer you a discount if you are an RSC member, so that's worth a look too. Just to say,
I think if I could just mention that,
yeah, of course.
I've seen that there's a lot of free training courses which are now available because of the current situation and the current economic climate. So it's well worth trying to dig into that through other course providers.
Yeah, and now might be the perfect time, if you have a little bit more time on your hands, as some of us do, now might be the perfect time to do that. Identify skills gaps and then find a way, preferably a free way, as Jordan says, if you can, to fill those gaps and demonstrate your proactive approach. It's more than just taking the course. I have mentioned the Career and Professional Development Services. That's the team that I belong to. And on the screen now, you can see just an overview of the kind of things that we do. We provide support for all RSC members at all career stages anywhere in the world. For most categories of membership, we can arrange one-to-one consultations, not in person at the moment, obviously, but we have to hope that one day this will all be over and we will be out and about around the UK again. At the moment, we're doing most of these by phone, Skype and Zoom, so you can still get a consultation. You just need to let us know, drop us an email. We can provide guidance on career planning, applications and interviews, support for your professional development. We also have a mentoring scheme, which is very worthwhile considering. We've had a lot of success with that. You can be matched with an RSC trained mentor who is just there to help you get the best out of your career for yourself, really. It's totally confidential. The mentor doesn't report back to us or anything like that. It's just someone to have in your corner to bounce ideas off, someone who's genuinely interested in helping you. I've already mentioned our networks. They are well worth exploring if you are a member. Make sure that you're getting your money's worth out of your membership. Join all the groups that you are able to do, because it's a great way to meet new people and get your name out there. I mentioned that there is some freely available careers guidance information on our web pages, and there's the URL there. It's www.rsc.org/careers. You can find lots of basic information there, and if you are a member, you will then be able to pass through the member portal and get to the other services too. If you want to drop us an email, if you're a member, by all means do. We are careers@rsc.org. If you suddenly think of a question that you should have asked today or wish you'd have asked at some point, please do just put it on an email to us, and we will do our best to answer it. Similarly, any other questions you've got about applications, interviews, job searching, whatever it might be, we're always pleased to hear from you if you're a member. Best way to do it is just to drop us an email in the first instance. That's careers@rsc.org. Another source of support that it's worth mentioning at the moment, particularly in these difficult times, is some of you will be aware that the RSC does have the Chemist Community Fund, which specifically exists to help members in difficult circumstances. So if you are an RSC member and you're experiencing hardship at the moment, which is particularly related to this COVID-19 outbreak, then please do feel free to contact the Chemist Community Fund, and they've got all sorts of ways that they may be able to help you. So that's another way that you can get value out of your membership. They're very, very helpful and very knowledgeable people, and I would urge you, if you are in any difficulties at the moment, to get in touch. If you've been listening to this webinar and you're not a member and you think you'd like to be, there are all sorts of ways that you can find out more about what you get, what your membership will actually give you. But there's just a few points on the screen there. Obviously, career development, we've talked about that today. Professional recognition, connections, networks. So if you've been inspired not only by Jordan but by about what you can access by being an RSC member, then do drop an email to membership@rsc.org. Have a look on our website and see what you get for each category of membership, and do get in touch if you're interested in joining. We would love to have you as a member. Okay, we're coming to the end now. It's been great to have you listening along. Again, I am very sorry for the slightly delayed start. I hope it didn't spoil your enjoyment and didn't mean that you didn't get as much out of this webinar as you were hoping to do. Huge thanks to you all for listening. Huge thanks to Jordan, who I think has really given us a tour de force today about what an interface career is like, what it can do for you, how you can get into one, and I think most of all that really proactive approach that you took, Jordan, and how it benefited you in the long run. So thank you very much indeed for your input today.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I just want to say a great thank you to you, Julie, for inviting me on today, and actually for the CV review we actually had. I think was it 18 months ago now? A year ago?
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
Because that actually was one of the big kicks I had to get onto the progression and to get my new role. Really was to have a CV review with the Royal Society of Chemistry. And I think it was a 45-minute to an hour slot where we went through the CV and sort of looked through the skills gaps and saw where there was room for improvement. So I think that service has been incredible for me.
Oh, well, that's great to know. Thank you, Jordan. It's always nice, to realise that we have helped people in that way. And I would hasten to add, I didn't really give you a kick. It was a metaphorical. we don't become members. It was a metaphorical kick. No, that's really good to know. I'm so pleased it helped you in that way, and maybe that encourages people who are listening, who would like that kind of help. Do get in touch with us if you're a member, and we're only too happy to help. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, because I passed it up a couple of times because being an RSC member for several years now, those emails had come on rotation. The careers advisors are in your area.
That's right.
In the coming weeks, and I'd sort of thought, oh, I don't need that, I don't need this, and then eventually, I said, okay, yeah, let's give it a go, and it worked. So I think people should really use the resources and use the careers team
Thanks very much.
that's available to them.
That's a great endorsement, and thank you very much. Okay, we will draw to a close now. I hope you've all enjoyed what you've heard today. I hope you felt inspired. Do feel free to get in touch, careers@mrsc.org. It's on the screen there if there's any questions you'd like to ask, and we'll do our best to help. So once again, thank you all very much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you very much to Jordan, and we hope to be welcoming you to one of our webinars again in the future. So goodbye to everybody for now, and have a good day.
Okay, thank you very much. Bye.